Okay, we've got a check engine light on. When it first came on, there was two lights, the traction control and the check engine, which is normal when you have a new code, and then after you restart the car, the second light will go away and you'll only have the check engine light. So this is what it's doing. And we have 614,000 miles, and the engine is cold right now. It just started up, and it's run for less than a minute, about a minute. That sounds to me like an idle air control valve, but let's do the pulling of the codes to see for sure. So to pull codes, I have to turn off my engine to plug in. Get here and get to our OBD2 port. Let's get our old scanner here, code reader. That's all it is, simple code reader. Plug it in. And now we have to turn the key on to get the dash lights on. We're not going to start the car. I'm just going to pull codes here. So hopefully you can see that screen. P0505 idle air control system. So that's pretty typical of Hondas and Acuras of this generation and many other Japanese brands. Idle air control valves will cause that symptom. So to deal with this idle air control valve issue, I went on the internet and found a genuine Honda part, 16022-P8A-A03, and that supersedes 01 and 02. So now they're on the third generation of this part. And I'll show you what the part looks like here. So this is what the part comes with. A new rubber gasket for the bottom. And this part, if you see it in the right lighting, right here it says Denso. And if it doesn't say Denso, it's not a genuine Honda part. There's a lot of Chinese knockoffs. And you can get one at AutoZone and other places, but I've already done that. That's just the part that's on the car right now. Duralast from AutoZone, AC4069, and it says control valve. And what else does it tell us here? Not much. So I think inside here I have my factory original, probably. You can see I got some extra. Yeah, this is my factory original that came with the car brand new in the year 2000 from the factory. It says Denso on it. That was their first generation part, and now it's exactly the same, except they're on the third generation. Anyway, I have my factory original in the box because I did replace it with an AutoZone part, and now that part's gone bad. The reason I replaced the original, this looks quite a bit cleaned up, but it had carbon in here like you wouldn't believe. It was amazing the thing can even move. Probably wasn't moving. So I changed it. Now it looks like the AutoZone part has gone bad. On my factory original, I did not get a check engine code. The car just started idling funny and kind of surging when I was stopped at a stop sign or a red light. You really had to keep your foot on the brake because it would surge. So I changed it. It got a little better, but not perfect. So I don't think this AutoZone part is really the right thing to use. So I splurged, went on the internet, got a genuine part, and came from Alabama. There's so few left in the country because of the age of the car. And this cost me, with tax and everything, $285, tax and shipping. Whereas the AutoZone part, I think, was $100, $119. But you know, if it's crap in a year or so, I'd rather get the factory original. Once I get the AutoZone part off, I'm going to put it back in the box, take it back to the store. These have a lifetime durability tested. On the receipt it says lifetime guarantee. I still own the car, so I'm going to take that back. Okay. So to get to this part, we're going to take off just the plastic, not the metal, just the plastic. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to take off 1, 2, 3, 4 screws and 1 clamp for the snorkel. Take that off, disconnect a bunch of sensor plugs, and the throttle body is right under here, and you can see the accelerator cables here to the throttle body. So we're going to take the throttle body off, 2 nuts, 2 bolts, pull it towards us this way, and turn it over. On the bottom side is the idle air control valve, and you'll see it has a water coolant hose going in and one coming out of the throttle body. So we're going to have to pinch those off or plug them, because we're going to have to disconnect those 2 hoses, or at least the 1 hose has to come off. We take that 1 hose off that's connected right here. So coolant's going to leak out, so we'll either plug the hose or clamp it. Old hoses, I don't like clamping because they're kind of brittle and they're not very rubbery anymore. So we'll see once we get it apart. And then the car computer plugs in here and talks to this and tells it to open and close that little, you can see a little shiny spot in there. That will open and close to allow air to bypass down under around the throttle plate, that butterfly valve. So this lets just small amounts of air in to keep the car idling. So that is our problem. Let's get to it. Okay, let's get all these off our 10mm. Okay, all 4 loose. Lift this up, take that away. Okay, so let's get these 4 screws loosened up here for the air cleaner box. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's loosen the clamp on the snorkel. That loose, and let's pull this air hose out of the snorkel. There we go. Let's pull this off holder, pull this hose off the back, get this wire off this clamp. This is our MAP sensor, manifold absolute pressure, and it's held in 2 places there. Get this safely out of the way so we don't break it. Get this air hose off. Let's get the air snorkel out of the way. Covered the fender just so I don't scratch it when I'm pulling this off. Get the air cleaner out of the way so I don't damage it. Let's unplug a couple more sensors. This is our throttle position sensor, our idle air control valve, and that's the part we're going to replace. Get that unplugged. And as we'll unplug the EGR so we can move these cables out of the way. And water coolant temperature sensor. I'm going to go ahead and remove this little plastic cover too. Just a quarter turn. Lift that out of the way. It's a little bit more out of the way, so undid this clamp here. There we go. That'll give us a little more room to work. So I'm going to undo the throttle cables just to make it easier. You don't have to take these off, but I'm going to take them off just to make it easier to work in here. And I'm going to undo these two screws and take this whole thing off. Okay, we got the two screws off, and these cables, there's a little slot that you can see. Just pull them towards the rear of the car, and then the cable will come out. So we'll get that out of the way. And now, the only thing holding this is two hoses and two nuts, two bolts. Let's get those two nuts, two bolts off. 12 millimeter. This top cover, they were 10 millimeter. Okay, got the two nuts off, got the two bolts off, pretty long bolts. And now this should be ready to come off. There we go. Just a paper gasket there. Do not tear that paper gasket unless you want to go buy another one. There we go. And you can pull this back, just kind of pull up on it so that you can get it off these two long studs without damaging the threads. There we go. That is off. You can see the paper gasket's still fine, no damage to it. They're not very expensive, but I think you can only get them in the dealer. So now we got two water hoses on the bottom. You see one is in the throttle body, we could leave that one. And this one is in the idle air control valve. We're going to take that one off and water's going to leak out. So we'll be ready to plug it with either clamping the hose or sticking a bolt in the end of the hose to stop the coolant from leaking out. Take one of these bolts and stick it in the hose once I have it off. I'm going to get my long nose pliers on there, get the clamp off. And I can see that coolant is going to leak out, so I'm going to get some towels to soak up whatever I spill before I can plug the hose. I don't want to make a total mess of my garage floor. prepared the patient for the operation. Because coolant might also come through here and out that metal fitting, I put some black tape on these vice grips. I'm going to pinch this off. I usually don't like doing this to old hoses because they are not very pliable anymore. So I just want to pinch that flow off there and get my bolt ready for the other hose, and let's go for it. Okay, there we go. Let's close that off there. Not too much came out, not too bad. We'll clean the whole throttle body when we get it up on the workbench. Okay, I guess I got to take the other one off too. Oh well. So we'll get the other one of these bolts for the other hose. And get ready to pull that one off too. So otherwise I can't get that throttle body up on the workbench, which is where I really want to work on it. I guess I could turn it upside down and work on it right here, but I want to clean it too. So let me see if I can get that off. Around a bit to get the rubber loosened up. That's ready to come off in there in a minute. A little bit of prying without damaging the rubber hose. There we go. Good, water's not squirting out. Well, that's good. I don't even have to plug that one, so no water came out. Just had to plug that one because it's a little bit lower than the water in the engine. That's probably what squirted out, so that's good. We don't need to clamp it. So now we're at the workbench. This is our throttle position sensor, and this is our idle air control valve. So 2 screws got to come off there to replace it. Oh, I put those on there tight. One screw. The other screw. There we go. Little groove there with the rubber gasket. We'll replace that. This is not a Denso part, so this is the AutoZone part. This is going to go back to the store. I don't see a ton of carbon in there. It's not that old. For a lifetime part, it only lasts about a year. There we go. So, throttle body looks relatively clean in there. Just cleaned up a little bit. So, the way this works is This is the bottom. So air, when this butterfly valve is closed at idle, no air is getting through. So right down here in the bottom, this is the idle air. We'll go through here, through our idle air control valve that regulates how much, and then it goes into the engine here. So it comes in. So you have coolant here, so if you're driving like in snowy, icy conditions, it will warm this thing up so it's not frozen solid. It's basically the only purpose of that. So air's coming through your air cleaner box, through here at idle. You can see this passage is where it comes in, goes through the idle air control valve, and this is a little rotating valve, and in through here, and then you can see it comes out into the engine. So it's bypassing this butterfly valve, so to give you the right computer controlled amount of air, because this motor is going to move to tell how much air the computer says it needs to mix with, 14.7 to 1 air fuel mixture. So let's get that changed out. You want to use some kind of a throttle body cleaner. This one's almost empty. So we're just going to, spray this whole thing out, get all the carbon and dirt, get everything, clean up the linkages. Everything works pretty smooth. It's not that dirty. It's been off several times before for cleaning. So let's just get it all shined up, and then we'll put the idle air control valve back on, and right here, and put it back in the car. Dried it all out, wiped it clean. So let's put this part back on. Let's put our little gasket in there. New rubber gasket, because your coolant will leak out if you don't have that. So let's get this the right direction. So one of these holes you can see is offset. So line it up with the offset hole here. This one with the hose is the offset, so it goes this direction, not the other way. Yeah, so there's coolant in this hole and coolant out the same hole. So these coolant hoses have to be on the same hole. That makes sense. I'm going to lay this flat, and I'm going to grab my screwdriver with a rag so I can hold it really tight without stripping the heads. Get it as tight as you can, but don't strip the heads off. You want it tight because you don't want a coolant leak, because that's your engine coolant. So this is ready to go back on the car. Make sure this mating surface is clean. Any old gasket or anything, get it off of there. It's all clean and smooth. Okay, so let's get this back in the car. So the curved hose goes on here. The one coming up goes on the bottom there, just like we had it before. This is the top Okay. Make sure your clamp's out of the way for your snorkel. Good, no more coolant leaking out. That was only a little bit. A little splash when we took it off. There we go. Lift this up as straight as we can so we don't strip the ends of those threads. Pull up on it, there we go. That's back on. Long bolt in there. We're going to torque these crisscross pattern. So let's get the nuts and bolts back on. Always hand thread as far as you can by hand so you don't cross thread, strip anything off. On aluminum engines, that's like the worst thing you can do is strip a screw, bolt. Okay, let's get those torqued. Don't get carried away, just make it snug. It's a pretty short wrench, so I can't put too much torque on it anyway. Okay, that's torqued. All these wet rags out of the way. Our throttle back on. Move these up where we can see them, get the cables on. Let's put the screws in here first. Let's do that first. I recommend you hold on to these screws really good, because you don't want to drop one of these down in your engine. It'd be hard to find. I don't want to get carried away torquing that either. I want to make sure I can get it off next time, so make it snug. Don't strip the heads. Okay, there we go. Now, put the throttle cables on there. This one's cruise control. Okay, and this one is gas pedal. There we go. So it's connected. You can pull up on these and make sure they're connected. And our throttle plate is closed all the way. Nothing binding there. I'm going to plug in a bunch of sensors. So let's put our coolant sensor, click. Let's put in our EGR, click. Let's get this air hose here on this end on there and get that clamp in place. This clamp, which I didn't need to really take off, put that one back on. Okay. Plug in our, I'll bring the camera around, make it easier to see. So plug in our idle air control valve into our new part, click, and our throttle position sensor. It's on there. And I think now we're going to get our snorkel back in, and we'll route the rest of these hoses. Yeah, let's do that. Get the snorkel. Oops. Get my air cleaner in there. Line up the holes. Make sure it's facing the right direction. Make sure that box sits flat. And get our screwdriver. Tighten down our 4 screws. Just snug it. Don't have to put a dire strain on it because you got to get these out later to clean your air filter. Or if you got a paper one, replace it. I only use K&N. And then secure this cruise control cable. Okay. Let's tighten the snorkel clamp. That's tight. Don't need to get carried away. Put this air hose back in there. There we go. That clamp. Okay, that's in. Route this over. Little resting spot there and there, and hook that on. Put that clamp back on. Another air hose here onto the snorkel. Take our map sensor. It's got to hook into a couple of resting spots on the snorkel. So let's get one loop here on the back side. And one spot right here. Now it's got wire management there. Click, it's on there snug. Let's check everything. I have checked everything. Everything's connected right. I'm not going to put these two covers on yet. I'm going to wait till I start the engine. Make sure I don't have any coolant leaks. I want to be able to see down here. Shouldn't be any coolant leaks, but that's the one thing that we tampered with on the idle air control. Has a rubber seal for coolant and then two hoses for coolant. So I want to make sure there's no leaks. Nothing funny going on before we put our two plastic covers back on. Okay, let's look for coolant leaks. Look under the car. No leaks under the car. No coolant leaks. So we can put those covers on now and reset our code, our check engine light. Put this one on first. Just a quarter turn. Line up the hole there. There we go, quarter turn. This cover, 10 millimeter. Okay. Make it look pretty. Let's go reset the check engine light. Back inside the car now. So let's plug in. You can see the OBD2 port down there. I'll need some light. There we go. I got the plastic cover off. You just grab it by the top and pull it off with your fingers. So let's connect up. Okay, there we go. Plugged in. Put this up where you can see it. And turn on the key. I hope you can see that screen. It's searching for the right protocol. Okay, we have the code P0505. I'm going to hit my erase button. Erase, yes. And now we are not going to be ready for smog because we cleared code, so it's going to be a yellow light until we do a drive cycle. And I have another video that explains the drive cycle. See, now we have 0 codes, but we have to complete a drive cycle. But that's okay. I'm not going in for smog anytime soon. This will clear. We'll check it again in about a week. I haven't been driving this car too much lately. So, turn off the key, unplug my scanner. The code is clear. Put my little cover back on, short side down. There we go. Little cover's back on there. So let's start up the car and see what we got. Let's see if that helps if I have dash lights on for you. Yeah, let's do dash lights. We have 614,122 miles. Cold start, no foot on the gas, just key only. Okay, no check engine light. I don't have my seatbelt on, of course, I'm in the garage. So, now before, you'd start the car and in about 1 minute, you'd start getting the surging idle. So we're gonna let the car run for about a minute, see what happens. Very steady idle so far. So we're at 1,000 RPMs. .57 degrees out. It's been raining in California day after day after day for weeks. No flooding in my neighborhood though. That's good. Let's give it a little rev. No idle surging. That's good. I'm holding my foot on the gas. Get the car warmed up a little quicker. Idle came down to about 800 RPMs. You can see the temperature is just coming off cold. It's a little bit above cold. I think we've solved the problem. If you did lose a lot of coolant, make sure you check your coolant level. And we're almost to normal operating temperature. think we've solved the problem here. Idle is steady at about 750 to 800. You want to get the engine up to normal operating temperature, which means the fans come on and then shut off, and that's a normal operating temperature. But I'm not seeing any idle surging. I think this fixed the problem. Idle is nice and steady. We're almost at operating temperature, waiting for the fans to come on. Pulling up on the throttle cables. Got a steady idle. I don't see any more idle air control valve problems with this car. So we're going to call that job done. And if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel.